I've started to design and program a tutorial for my game. Every game needs a tutorial of some kind. Even games that don't seem to have one do some sort of onboarding for the player. Some tutorials can be huge and full of information, others can be minimal or even non-existent. The biggest challenge in introducing a player to a new game is finding that balance between horrors of long tutorial and frustration of not understanding what's going on in the game. Not every game has that balance. I would even go as far as to say that most don't. We as players got used to the fact that the first 10, 20 or sometimes even 120 minutes of the game might not be very enjoyable. We reserve this time to learn mechanics and rules of the game. Minimal tutorial or complete lack of it has its good sides. First that comes to my mind is no tutorial, no cost of developing tutorial. Also, if there is no information inside of the game, people tend to look for this information elsewhere. They communicate with each other online, and by doing so, a community is created. Games like Minecraft, Terraria or Kerbal Space Program have massive communities active years after their release. Yes, Kerbal Space Program has a tutorial now, but during its early access, the only source of information about it was online. And in the weird way, lack of an in-game tutorial was responsible for the game's success. Don't get me wrong, I think Kerbal is a wonderful game. I have like 200 hours of playtime on it. But without its community, who knows what would have happened with it. The problem with zero to very little tutorial, however, is obvious. The player can get frustrated and stop playing your game. No player, no community, Steam refund. Nobody wants that. On the other side of the argument, we have a big, very detailed tutorial. It guides player through every little thing in the game. Using this approach guarantees that every player can learn all mechanics before starting actual play. No one who likes tutorials will complain about that. Tutorial from a developer's perspective has a big problem built into it. It requires creating assets and writing code that will be used only once. Because of that, return on your investment of resources will always be pretty low, especially if you're planning a big tutorial. The risk of losing players who get frustrated due to lack of onboarding is obvious. However, there are plenty of people who like to figure things out by themselves, and if you make them go through 30 minutes of clicking on highlighted buttons and jumping over marked logs, they'll say, "Fuck that, I just wanted to play the game." Refund! So introducing a new player to your game can be very challenging. How many times we've encountered a pop-up telling us about the magic of jumping, invoked by mysterious space button? Too many times. Should the game you play assume that you're an idiot?
Candy.
Should everyone be treated like a complete noob just because there's a chance that a noob might actually decide to play your game? Probably not. On the other hand, can every developer count on the community to introduce new players to the game? Of course not. Truth is that there is no perfect solution to this problem. Every game will attract a different kind of player. Every player has their preferences. And the reality of the matter is that the developer is mostly guessing blindly, trying to put himself in the statistical player's shoes. In the case of Gallic Wars, I am not willing to use 5 or 6 weeks to develop a tutorial. That is why that big, complex tutorial is just not going to happen. No tutorial is also not an option. After watching my friend try to play the game, I was horrified how lost he was. Besides, counting on the community in the game this small is probably not a good idea. And to be honest, I'm not sure if there's enough questions in my game to even create that community. Considering these facts, I've decided that I am not going to treat my players like morons, but I will give them some information. Game mechanics considered as standard won't be included in the tutorial. I assume that pretty much everyone will know how to select units in the game that allows them to select units. Only game mechanics that are unique to my game will be covered in the tutorial. I hope that this approach will keep most players from being frustrated and playing the game. There's always a risk that trying to make everyone happy, I am also making everyone unhappy. But what the hell, this is how I'm doing it and no one can stop me. Let me know in the comments what games in your opinion did the whole onboarding great and which made a mess of it. I probably should focus on the ones that did a good job, but let's be honest, fails are always more fun. Okay, like, subscribe, and all that good YouTube shit. This is it for this week. Stay safe. Matt Gamesmith out.